Hey everybody, hi. So I think this is still okay. It is. I couldn't remember if I used OBS on this channel last or the other one, but it's this one because everything just shifted to the live screen. Um, I'm gonna be using the Energy Oracle cards. Y'all can't see it. I wanted to be on here today, but if I use OBS, it's like it's a bunch of stuff. It on full screen. So actually, let's see. Hold up, y'all. This is gonna be a whole mess. I could have did this before I came live. In fact, I attempted to do some of this before I came live, and I had it where I liked it, but then I was like, and then I put this up here, and I moved this like that, and I moved this over here. Then I also do one of these. Oop, hold it. I know I'm always doing something extra. Boom, that works, right? More or less. Hold up, wait, I like the wrong one. How are y'all doing today? I went to have breakfast with my grandmother today. 1 second. Oh, hold up, y'all. All right, everyone, I am back. I think, yep, I hit a little bit. I wanted to put this up here because last time when that car fell out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the card I was talking about. And if you could have seen it real time, it's ego. To satisfy my ego when it happened. I guess when I do stuff like that, then it doesn't happen. Um, but I went to breakfast today at a restaurant. And it's the first time that I've been at a sit down place since everything started almost a year ago. Um, and I was just curious what the experience would be. Honestly, it wasn't too different. Besides, we walked in with masks. And when we sat down, like, we took them off so we could eat. And it's like, I don't know, people aren't really all up in your space anyway, right? And they sanitize everything as they should have always been doing, I'm assuming. I guess maybe the menus get wiped down more, but and it was pretty good. It was really good. I went with my grandmother, and I need to just like talk to her one day because her life is so much more interesting than I would think. I don't know, because she's always been like my grandma, right? And even my own mom, it's not like I talk too much or I've talked to her too much about her life. The Four of Swords just came out. I remember this card from a story that I told. And there was a masculine element and a feminine element. And the masculine element had dedicated his life to becoming proficient in something and accumulating wealth, basically. And this is him having made it at the end of his life, but not really having anyone to share it with. And like this old man runs very counter the Ten of Pentacles old man who's with, the grandchild, and then the children are in the back, and then there's the dog there. Who this? The back of the Six of Swords. This is an energy, I think sometimes when we're moving on from something, or I don't know if it would be more effective to do it here. Sometimes when we're moving on from something, I think it's like we have a certain steely exterior. But with this, you can see the cup, right? So it's okay to be hurt. It's funny because I was just talking to my grandma. And I found out that one of my aunts lives a lot closer to the area that I'm considering than I thought. I thought she was like 2 to 3 hours away for some reason. Because I'm talking to my grandma, and we brought it up because I asked my grandma if she would ever move. She was like, I don't have a desire to. She Taurus, though. And I think for her, she's found comfortability in where she is. And because of her life, like, she lost her mother when she was young. And she was fairly rebellious. But she knew that she could survive here. Other people tried to get her to go other places, but she was like, I don't know anything about those places. And I know that I can survive where I was before. And so that's why she settled here. And my youngest brother, he's a Taurus too. And he's also really connected to the area. So he didn't really want to leave either. The Eight of Wands just came out. The Knight of Pentacles, or the Page of Pentacles, is at the top of the deck. This is the front of the Eight of Wands. The back of the Eight of Wands, it's more like karmic, cosmic things that have already sort of been set in motion. The front then would be the things that we sort of do and the things that we decide. The sky is clear. And so it isn't necessarily as unexpected or out of the blue, but it is just as quick, or it has the potential to be just as quick. But anyway, I was like, what? I didn't know that, because that's the area I'm looking at. She was like, yeah. And then I was like, I've kind of sort of been wanting to talk to her about some stuff for a minute because I appreciate her wisdom and her perspective. And so I started talking about stuff a little bit. And it's interesting because I feel like my mom has one sort of viewpoint because of her experiences. And then my grandmother has another. And my grandma was like, well, when you live in life on earth just comes with stuff. It just comes with stuff. And so everybody got stuff. And then she went into talking about, following God's plan and how he won't lead you astray. But sometimes, we stick to what we want, and then we end up in whatever situation we end up in. I don't know why I was going to start talking about that. I don't remember the Six of Swords, because the Six of Swords came out. And so it's like moving through life with that. It's like being okay with being vulnerable, or being okay with not having everything figured out, or being okay with being a work in progress. Because I feel like the other side of the Six of Swords is like, it's moving forward, but it's moving forward like in silence. It's moving forward while holding something. And when you hold back, there are things that you can't receive. But that side of the Six of Swords that showed the cup, it's moving forward. It's capable of receiving. It's trusting in the ferryman. And there's a little bit of a divining energy in there too. Like she's looking into the cup to see where it is that her heart is calling her. Now the ferryman already knows that, but without her being on board, then she introduces a lot more resistance than is necessary. She's like, "Are you sure you know? Like, are you sure you know where you're going? Like, I think you should go that way." Ferryman is like, "Girl, you don't know nothing about nothing. You came to me. You ain't never been here before in your life. I run these circuits all the time. I know how to get where we're going. But you paid the fare, and the more out of the way we go, the more money I get. So sure." And then you want to be, or sometimes you want to be like, "Well, why did you take me this way? Blah, blah, blah." And it's like, I tried to go the other way, but you were very adamant about this. It's like you actually took the oar from my hand and paddled this direction. So I don't see why it's my fault. I don't know what I'm doing with these, y'all. I want to pull an energy oracle card first because I haven't used these cards in a minute. I don't know what I'm doing today. Let's do something nice and sweet. I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm still nervous, but I'm excited. It's time for me to start doing some of the stuff that, not that I should have been doing a long time ago. It's just time to fully step into the next phase of life and to fully embrace it because there are things that I want very much so. And there are things that I have to do to get there. And if I really think about it, like where I am right now, it's not that I can't necessarily accept some of the things that I want to receive, but I at least want to be a little bit further and like established. I want to be working. I want to be relocated and making money, saving money, so that when things start to open back up, I can take trips. Or even before things open up, if I follow guidelines or whatever. I'm ready to travel. I'm ready to see the world. I'm ready to live the life that I was afraid of for like 25 years. So I'm like 25.3 years old today. Or 3. I'm 3. I'm 3 years old. In this incarnation, I guess. Or in this chapter of this incarnation. Alright. Bottom of the deck is the Garden and the Gate, looks like. I already took my glasses off. Oh, is that the King of Cups? It is the King of Cups. Okay. Yeah, the Garden and the Gate, which is number 30. The Garden and the Gate is all about kind of sort of having everything that you need where you are, but how much more there is outside of it. It's an energy of going outside of your comfort zone to experience the abundance and the beauty and the splendor and wonder of the world around you. And I think there's an inherent fear or inherent anxiety or inherent anxiousness. Talking about my grandma and her like knowing that she could survive here and refusing opportunities to go outside of her comfort zone. Now, she doesn't have any regrets because she likes where she is. And it's not for her to have regret. Ultimately, at the end of the day, she probably did what she felt was for her. And in the moment, in that time and place and space, we make a certain choice and decision for one reason, but later on down the line, we find out that it leaves us positioned for more. And I talked about that before, about how when I was at Purdue my freshman year, I hated it. I didn't hate it. It was just like I was depressed and I had no friends and I wasn't doing anything to make friends. I shut myself in my room. I went to class most of the time. And I was just like, but there was this really cute boy and he lived on my floor and he would like knock on my door and invite me to stuff. And I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to be here. Right now I don't have a reason. So I'm fine with you being the reason. I don't necessarily do things for cute boys, but if a cute boy gets if a cute boy makes the space that I'm in, that I know I'm supposed to be in, a little bit more tolerable, then hey, you know. And then eventually I found my own place in that. And so if that is the case, then that's fine. But if you are being called somewhere new, I think that's like the inherent, it's the newness, it's the unknown that produces all of that emotion behind this card. Um, the card, ooh, 3 cards. I'm gonna leave them face down. Mystery. Let's see. Y'all see these kind of, sort of. All right. Cool. Let's do 3 and 3. 3 for 3. And I guess I'll do the top somewhere in the middle and the bottom. So I'll close my eyes because with this deck, I can see the cards. And when they flip over in another deck, okay, there we go. They dribbled out. I got 2 cards, but I'll take them. It's the 2 of Swords and the King of Swords. But it's the back of both of these cards. This feels like an energy. It feels like an energy of like someone hiding their cards, but not necessarily in like a malicious way or in a shady way. It feels like someone who's like minding their own business, doing what they need to do, but you somehow feel impacted by their decisions. And there are like conversations that you're not a part of. I don't think that they're like you're necessarily supposed to be a part of these conversations. I think you're supposed to just trust the wisdom of the king. Trust that the King of Swords is wise enough. Trust that Spirit, if you're listening to Spirit, knows what's best for you. And that King of Swords could be Spirit, where you're like, Spirit, like, what's going on? I feel like, I'm not, like, there's things happening and I don't know what's going on. And it's almost like a test of faith. I think the only test of faith thing about it is like you're being asked to hold your faith in the space of darkness or in the space where you don't completely know. But that moon is like big, big and bright, bright. So like even with the blindfold on that she probably has, and she does have a blindfold on. There it is. No, that's the King of Swords. There it is. Even with the blindfold on, the moon is bright enough that she would be able to see that there's a light in front of her. Because it's that bright, I guess. Oh, and look, the 9 of Pentacles with that same moon up there. It's like follow the path of the fulfillment of your heart's desires. And when you follow the path of the fulfillment of your heart's desire, sometimes you'll come across things that are difficult and that are challenging. But if you're steadfast enough, you'll see through the challenge to get the reward. Okay, I'll take this one because I can see that this is the one. Aces. Oh, I love this. So next is, the 9 of Pentacles came out, but it's the front side of the 9 of Pentacles now. So we're back in daytime like we were with that 8 of Wands. The back of the World card, and then the eagle delivering the wreath. Hold up, wait. The eagle delivering the wreath that is, that mandorla of the world when you raise your sword. But that's happening in the dark. Again, it carries that energy that I've been feeling lately of like you created a foundation for something, but you don't even, like, at that time and place, you didn't even realize that you were doing what you were doing to receive what it is that you're going to be receiving. And with it being the back of the world and with the eagle carrying that laurel wreath, or that wreath that I'm feeling as a laurel wreath, it's like it's the reward for something that you've already completed. It's like, well, I hope you didn't forget about this. It took a while, but it's going to come to you. All right. And then last, with the 4 of Pentacles at the top. Now, we don't see all of the elements on this side of the 4 of Pentacles, but we do see the fire. And earth is the only element that can contain fire. Water puts it out. Air feeds it. Earth can contain it. It's a hearthy energy. So it's a desire of the heart that's been, I feel like I've heard that lately. It was like a wish that we've held for a long time. Maybe we forgot about it because it was taking so long. Maybe we were fighting with the ferryman and we decided to finally surrender, and now the ferryman is like bringing us back to be positioned to receive something. It's like, hey, I hope you didn't forget about me, because I most definitely have not forgotten about you. The Queen of Cups, and that's the only one I'm going to take for this one. Look, 2, 1, 3. So I'm going to do this one first, this one second, and then this one, because there's 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards. The Three of Wands, the front of the Three of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. And the oh snap, the front of the Six of Pentacles is at the front. The Six of Pentacles is a card of reciprocity. It's a card of, it's basically a mirror. Whatever you put into a situation, you're going to get out of a situation. With the Queen of Cups, it feels like it's a little bit in the Three of Wands at the bottom. And it's setting out, and you can see that orb of fire and water there. And that red cloak, red being the color of the root chakra. So it's like this long path that we've been walking without a whole bunch of validation and confirmation. External validation and confirmation. Internally, we feel like we are still heading in the direction that we need to be. The Queen of Cups trusts her intuition and she listens. She's High Priestess energy, which is why I left her all by herself. Because she's not by herself. She has spirit. Remember when I was saying about the lady, like, staring into the waters of the cup that was in the Six of Swords, because it would lead her to her heart's desires. So with this energy here, in this energy, this is the space, again, it feels like that Five of Swords, where it would have been a lot easier to just give up. But we kept pressing on regardless, even if it didn't make sense from the outside, because there was no immediate reward. There was no immediate payoff. But again, it's that energy of like, it's about that delayed satisfaction rather than that instant gratification. And now, like that, you held the line. Whatever this was is going to be coming in. And that's the story. This is someone who got a message from Spirit, who chose to listen to it, regardless of the things that they couldn't see or regardless of the things that they didn't see. Trusting that even if it seemed like it was a little cold and Spirit was a little distant at times, that they were being led and guided in the direction that would ultimately serve them. And because they did that in the dark, again, now we see this Nine of Pentacles. This is abundance growing in spaces that you don't even realize it. It's about to come to the day. And again, with the World card and this Ace of Swords, it feels like this is something that's owed to you. It's like you're going to be rewarded for things that you've already done. It just took a minute to get there. And you're going to know, Ace of Swords, you're going to know, like, oh, okay. Like, this is what I was, like, holding space for. This is what I was working for. This is what I was conquering towers and slaying my own personal demons for. So I could be in a position to receive and accept this. And it's like, wow. Like, you could have just told me. Like, back here, it's like, you could have just told me. But with the Queen of Cups, it's like, well, you already knew. So what was there to say? Thank you for trusting. Thank you for believing. Thank you for holding the line. Six of Pentacles. Because you continue to put in. Eventually, you're going to get something out. Because it's not immediate doesn't necessarily mean that we don't put into it. There's a very, like, forward-thinking energy here. But it's still in the now moment. It's like in the now moment, you maybe felt called to do things, or maybe you struggled extra. It seems like things were more challenging than they needed to be, but you continued to do whatever you needed to do. And it's like, oh, okay. This is why I was like on extra hard mode, because you were simultaneously building a foundation to accept something else. And before I started this, I was just thinking about how everything is shifted into Aquarius and Pluto is the only thing still in Capricorn. And when everything was in Capricorn, it might have been more difficult, or it might have seemed like things were like pushing down on us. We might have felt like we were in a pressure cooker. But the more energy in Capricorn, the easier it is to kind of sort of begin to set a foundation. But now that everything's moved into Aquarius and beyond, now stuff is even starting to move into Pisces, the Sun and Venus, and pretty soon Mercury will be here. Mars will be moving into Gemini in a few days, when it was in Aries for a hot minute, when everything was in Capricorn. Um, and so it's like Pluto was the only thing anchoring that foundational space. Everything else has already moved on, but you can't claim anything that you don't have a foundation built for. If you receive something that you don't have the foundation for, it's like it'll get washed out. That's how people win millions of dollars and then a few years later they're broke again. It's about the foundation that you establish to maintain and to keep something, right? So let's see if this takes a different flavor. Oh, look at this. Look at this. The goddess and the moon. That's why I didn't need another card. Because, like I said, the Queen of Cups is pre High Priestess energy. The goddess of the moon is all about listening to your intuition. It's like the moon is that supreme intuitive force. The goddess is, the goddess, a feminine aspect of divinity. And then here with the Queen of Cups, it's not a card of apprenticeship. It's a card of spiritual, it's like a spiritual apprenticeship. It's like a spiritual cleansing through all of the stuff that we've worked through, all of the challenges that we've risen to the occasion of, the foundations that we've built long before we began to receive anything, the dedication and determination that we showed to building those foundations, which really lays the framework for everything that we're receiving. There was like the part of us that is connected to that which is all, or that which is the all. The part of us that knew. The conscious and more, even like the closer to conscious subconscious levels and the conscious level wasn't necessarily on the same page, was a lot more easily distracted by everything sort of happening around us, that it's almost like it could have missed this almost whisper. It feels like a thread of like, this is what you need to do in this moment. I know that things are like rough outside, but if you do this and if you continue to do this, you're going to be setting yourself up to be first in line for the bounce back, for the comeback, for whatever. Because things are about to shift and change, and what stood in the past may not stand now. Pluto is still holding the space of Capricorn for a hot minute, for a few more years, as everything else moves on. The next card is 6th Chakra Archangel Metatron. That is the third eye. I love that this. Oh, I was supposed to read this one first. So I'm not going to look at these yet. So I made a mistake. I said 1, 2, 3. But also, I feel like this is a little bit reflective of what our experience can be. Because sometimes it's like we can feel into the space of the end goal. We can see the end goal, but we don't necessarily know how to get there. It's like we're listening to our intuition. Our intuition is telling us that we're going to be in the space of the 9 of Pentacles, that the world is going to be the back of the world. So everything in this chapter is going to be closed, and you're going to be coming into this new knowledge, this new knowing, this new awareness. But it's like, okay, that's like super cool, but like, how do we get there? Now, this, and again, that's why the King of Swords has his back turned. Because it's like the divine isn't necessarily telling us exactly how to get there, but everything we need to get there is already inside of us. It's our heart and our conscience. Basically, Jiminy Cricket. On our journey to become real boys and girls and non-binary people, right? Instead of just puppets made out of wood. But I feel like with that sixth chakra archangel Metatron, with that third eye energy, it's an energy that made self-deception possible, because maybe we were trying to force a knowing onto the events. It's like things were happening in the world. Some people were saying one thing, other people were saying another thing, and us ourselves were like, it's like we're overlaying, we're projecting on top of what's happening instead of observing it to the point where the truth illuminates itself. It goes back to like that Queen of Swords that I saw yesterday. And what was Sagittarius? Gemini was a mother going up the stairs. Was Sagittarius the quiver? I think Sagittarius was the quiver. Virgo, yeah, Sagittarius was the quiver. No, Sagittarius was the mother leading the children up the stairs. Gemini was the quiver. Virgo was the futurist drawings. And then Pisces was the jockey. So the mother leading the children up the stairs on the journey of ascension. Those who come before to sort of set the path later. And it's like maybe there were those who came before. But that's the tricky thing about prophecy. And especially prophecy over a large amount of time. Time is kind of irrelevant. It's just the tricky thing about prophecy is that free will is still a factor. And so prophecies can be wrong, or they can change because they're circumstantial, but they don't all outline the circumstances that will lead to them being true. So it's like it's possible that at a certain point in time we were on a certain trajectory, but someone along the way decided to use the power of their free will and the power of their choice to shift control. And it reminds me of the Five of Wands and the Six of Wands in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. At the Three of Wands, they get a prophecy of a new crown prince. At the Five of Wands is the competition to see who will win the throne. At the Six of Wands, it's revealed that it's actually a princess. Everything else is true, or a lot of other parts of the prophecy is true, except it's not a prince, it's a princess. Life gets in there sometimes. I mean, life gets in there somewhere. Life gets in there some way. The goddess of the moon, it holds an energy of the oracle from the Matrix. And it holds that energy because the oracle understands human emotion. The oracle, it's not that she can necessarily like predict it, but in the oracle's matrix, it takes into account human factors. In the architect's matrix, it doesn't. And it's like the architect's matrix doesn't account for the strength of the human heart, the resiliency of humanity, or of love, really. But the oracle will. And it seems like a whole lot of architect type prophecies, because it was like one thing leading to another. It doesn't necessarily account for shifts and changes in individuals. But that's number 3. We skipped ahead. The second one is 4th chakra Archangel Raphael. See, And this is the heart. This is that open heart. This is the connectivity, that human resilience and love. This is what changed. Because at some point, the heart of humanity began to open. At some point, what was once dead got a beat. And that's what changed. That's what shifted us off of the Metatron version, off of the Architect's version. That's why the Architect lost, basically. And again, with the Oracle, it's not that it's necessarily guaranteed. And it's not that you know everything. It's just that you can account for some things, and faith and hope and trust make up for the rest. I like that. And then with the garden and the gate, what it does is it opens us up to a whole new set of possibilities and potentialities that we didn't have access before. And again, what does that? It's the Six of Pentacles and that Three of Wands. Because when things got dark, you didn't lose hope. When things got dark, you didn't forsake yourself or the divine in the way that you should have. It's like everything is going bad. You don't have anything that you want. How is it that you can still keep the faith? How is it that you can still keep light? Why are you not lost? Why are you not confused? Why are you shining brighter when everything outside of you is getting darker? Like, you're not supposed to do this. And again, it goes back to that Five of Swords energy, or that new take on Five of Swords energy that I've been feeling lately. It's the space of holding the light when everything else is like going darker and it's trying to snuff it out. There's no reason for you to be as light as you are. But there is. There was. And with the Queen of Cups, you knew that. And you continue to hold the line. You continue to pour into it with that Six of Pentacles. And because you continue to pour into it, it took some time, but it's all going to come back to you. And not only is it going to come back to you, but again, you found a way to be solid in all of that. When everything else is dark, when it felt like spirit had gone silent, or whatever this King of Swords is in your life had turned its back on you and it felt cold, when you were out in the dark with this Two of Swords, it's like you chose to hold the faith. You chose to continue on your path, and you brought yourself into the light. And because you have that established within you, the Nine of Pentacles is a foundation that cannot be shaken by anything outside of it. It can only be added to. It can't be taken from. Because you held that, now, as the day is breaking in this card, it's a little less dark than these. As the day is breaking, it's like everything is going to come flooding in. That's gorgeous. But the heart, Archangel Raphael, that was the key. That's what bridged these two. And what's this? Oh, the Five of Cups. I saw the Five of Cups yesterday. Well, for some people, it's the Six of Pentacles. For other people, it's the Five of Cups. I think it's holding the Six of Pentacles even in the space of the Five of Cups. Because like when resources got scarce all over the place and people were talking about war breaking out, and I'm like, from the past, I can see how that would be a thing, but we're in a space now where I don't think people really want another war. I think there are maybe some powers that be, or some powers that had been, some powers that were interested in it. But I don't think like the upper majority of the people on this planet want one. I think the heart is shifting enough. I think some people have been in the space of biting the bullet for a minute. And for those people who have lost, I can't even imagine like the restraint and not like playing into that. I feel like sometimes the scales of who sacrifices can be a little unbalanced. Um, but for those who chose not to rise and fight and start another war, I guess I would say sorry for your loss. Thank you for your sacrifice. Because it doesn't make sense for countries to go to war when every single, like, at least the upper majority of countries are affected on the planet. It's like, so now we're going to start fighting for like breadcrumbs and scraps or something? Like, that doesn't make sense. It's loss that leads to more loss, and it's unnecessary. But somehow in this space, through certain events, eyes were opened, hearts were opened, and we decided a different path. And again, that's what changed. I mean, the collective heart of humanity was kind of sort of absent enough that I could see how, you would think that things would have gone a certain way. And I think also it's like we've come into a space of choosing because we weren't told, because we weren't necessarily guided as much in the past when we weren't just given the answers. Those who chose to hold the light held it. And it's that choice that led to the shift and change that it did. And again, it goes back to that hierophant energy that kept coming out of the SKT. And that message of like one person in their power is as loud as 1,000 under that of a hierophant. And that's what changed things. Is it going to be easy? Not necessarily. I think personally, and I'm still going on my own journey as well. I'm nowhere near completion. I mean, I've completed a lot of things, but choice is, I don't want to say it's difficult or that it's hard, but I think like you don't realize how much choice you don't have when you're carrying around a lot of old toxic karmic baggage. Because when you let it go, and when you're encountered by something that you would have automatically said no to in the past, well, like now, well, it's like I don't have that baggage now, and I've healed this now. So like this is like could be an actual option for me. This is something that I would have never done before because I wasn't in a position mentally to accept this or to look at it or to see all of the things that it can bring me. And it's like, wow, now I have to choose instead of it just being that automatic no. Like things were a little easier. I'm not the most decisive person. I see both sides of a lot of situations. Um, but it's like, wow, like now I actually got to choose. But that's sort of what we should have had all along. In one sense, like we shouldn't be traumatized and scarred or controlled by anything to the point where it's like we have automatic no's or automatic yeses, because we are making those choices, but they're choices that are prompted or informed by whatever is sort of running behind the scenes. That's the burden of being a real boy, is you don't necessarily have the luxury of, and I know I keep saying it lately, but it's like that, if everyone is going left, you go right. Because choice runs deeper than that. And sometimes your destination, it's like you have to make a left right here, but you don't have to go all the way. Who's to say that you don't turn off later? It's that Six of Swords. Sometimes it can be counterintuitive. And with the person holding the cup in that Six of Swords, it's coming into that knowing of things being counterintuitive. So if you're headed for something darker, you don't automatically turn tail and run away or hightail it in the opposite direction. It gives you the strength to actually go through a storm, to hold peace, and while you're in the storm, to see the way out. And there may be a way out. It's like it's like a detour energy, but it's like something that would only manifest in the storm. It's like some kind of fairy tale or magic or something. It's a door, it's a portal that only appears in a storm. And so you chase the storm not to go through the storm or not to weather the storm, but you enter the storm looking for that option that only presents itself in that sort of in those situations. And you take it. And again, with the garden and the gate, it's like it carries this energy of just opening up more doorways and more potential. It's like I don't think we really, or maybe for me, because again, like I'm not the most decisive person, and in the past I didn't handle choice pretty well because I'm constantly running like pros and cons on everything. Um, and so like limitless potential is kind of sort of overwhelming. Not overwhelming, but from the space that I was in, I guess I could definitely see it as overwhelming because again, now all of your choices aren't made for you. It's more than just left or right or up and down. You have an infinite number of moves to make and a practically infinite number of dimensions. And that's a little bit of like that's the human factor that runs behind the garden and the gate. So that's what I got. I like that. I love that. I'm gonna get final messages and then I'm gonna put these away and I'm gonna move on to the rest of my day. Honestly, I just want to sleep. And I can do that. Oh snap, look at that star card. Look at that star card. It's the space of an offering. Oh, and look, the high priestess is right there. The back of the high priestess too. It's like she's pouring out those waters in front of that like cosmic celestial presence, and then there's the single rose that blooms right there. It's sacrifice made out of love. And I think it's self-love and it's love for others in those two jugs. No, there's the back of the Eight of Wands. Okay, final message. It's on my thumb. It didn't fall all the way out. I'm not gonna take it. I'm gonna close my eyes. It was the King of Cups, so it wasn't bad. I mean, that just speaks to, I think, a lot of the stuff that I've already been saying. King of Cups energy lately feels like a diluting deluge. And because it dilutes the way it does, it also purifies. It doesn't purify by removing bad experiences. It purifies by opening the door to more good ones. And so it breaks us out of our mold, out of our habits, and out of our patterns. Because you can't undo. We can't undo. But we can make better. So I'm gonna keep going until something comes out. I thought I felt something fall. I guess not. Okay, well that ain't come out. Those ain't come out. Y'all gonna nope. See all this stuff. Y'all gonna have to hit the table. Okay. Well, they're in my hand, so. Oh, is that the Empress? It is. It's the front of the Empress. I think that's Venus up there. The green thing, the green star in the sky. I'm pretty sure that's Venus. So here's the Empress. Oh, look! Y'all see them little red flowers? I think those are the flowers from the back of the star. So this Empress energy isn't necessarily an individual. It feels like Gaian Empress energy. And the more people come into their light, the more people the more people hold fast to that, step out of Hierophants and into themselves, Like, the Hierophant isn't a destination, it's a tool to get you to connect to the divine. That's what the Hierophant is supposed to be. It's a tool. You use it to get closer to the divine, to eventually learn the divine for yourself. But it's like the more these flowers start to pop up, the more abundant, the more capable this Empress will be of creating. Bottom of the deck is the Tower. But it's this side of the Tower where the Sphinxes from the Chariot have somehow ended up around the Tower. On this side, it's like you see it being struck, but like there's nothing falling. Like everything is pretty chill. This is a tower that can withstand that blow. And what it does is it creates these flowers that won't wilt under pressure. It's a very like pomegranate type of energy in the underworld. But it's like it takes pomegranates to grow before anything else can grow. Maybe that's what Persephone's been doing down there. Maybe like Persephone had a job to do in Hades to get things to begin to grow there. But her mother and her mother's separation anxiety, it's like, well, if you go down there to try to make things grow, then everything on the surface is going to die because I can't live without you. And so her job has taken a lot longer. It's taken her a lot longer to do what it is that it's essentially taking her twice as long at the very least, because now half of the year she has to go spend with her mother because her mother can't, I don't know, find some other people to hang out with. And again, it's like this delayed energy. It's something that we've always been. It's like originally we had the heart to come into this golden age, but somewhere along the way, atrocities started being committed, genocides, things of that nature. The heart dulled to the point where we're not even as heavily affected. Like we can take life and not even really care about it too much. Or we can allow life to be taken, but not want to be personally inconvenienced enough to stop it or prevent it. So the heart was dying. It shifted us onto another trajectory. Instead of a golden era, a rusted dark era. But now that that heart is coming back online, it's like it's shifting us back to that golden space. And again, it's related to the work I feel like that Persephone was doing in Hades, shifting and changing the energy of Pluto. It's time to experience the resurrection side of Pluto, the Elysium side of the underworld, and the abundance that Hades rules over. Hades is the god of death, but also the god of abundance because all of the precious ores and minerals are under the ground. But it's like we've only experienced the worst of it. But to welcome that kind of energy in, like the foundation definitely needs to shift and change quite drastically in order for that to happen. And you got Pluto and Capricorn, so perfectly situated, right? So the front of the Eight of Wands, again, this is a celerity. This is things picking up speed, things gaining momentum. It's a quickening. We have the front of the Queen of Swords, where we saw the back of the. Oh, snap! I thought it was the back of the King. It was the back of the Queen of Swords. I'm shook. Hey, Solar Fire. How long have you been there? Oh, okay, it ain't been that long. How you doing today? That was the Queen of Swords. I thought it was the King of Swords. So now the Queen of Swords has revealed her face. The Queen of Swords is the one I was talking about that came out for Sagittarius, the one that knows the truth beyond the smoky, misty valley stuff. Now the truth is going to be coming. 7. Okay, I don't know what 7 means, but. And then the Two of Pentacles is here. It's the back of the Two of Pentacles now. The front and the back are pretty similar. But in the back, we see, in the front, it's just one person. In the back, we see the people in the rafters. We see the onlookers. It's a juggling. It's a decision-making process that takes more than the self into account. Michael energy here. Archangel Michael. Was it the tower? Was it the tower? No, it was this. It was the Empress. The Empress was at the top. So how I was saying, like, the more flowers that pop up, the more the tower the more the Empress can actually use her like creative magic. Honestly, and because this is like one of the least abundant looking Empress cards to me. It's like things could be a lot brighter, a lot greener. And it is dark in this space as well. But because of the choices and decisions that we make, it reveals the truth of the situation that couldn't have been spoken. And the reason why it couldn't have been spoken is because we wouldn't have heard it. We wouldn't have listened to it. We would have twisted everything that was said, twisted everything to fit the agenda that we were already sort of working with. And that's what we as people can kind of sort of do. It's like we don't look at situations like objectively. We look for what validates what it is that we already believe in a situation. And so now it's like we're creating the space for the actual truth to come out. And it's because at some point it feels like this energy of like it's because in some part we realize that the choices and decisions that we make has benefits and repercussions and consequences on the environment around us as well. And it's balancing the self in relation to everything else. This is like it's more selfish and self-centered, like you're the only person in the world. This, however, it creates the space for everything to flourish. It gets us back into that golden age, or on that golden age timeline, rather than the dark one that was full of people who were self-absorbed, who didn't care what other people went through or experienced as long as they were good. Because a world of selfishness does not thrive, right? It's like you trying to be selfish, and it's like, well, what if the earth is like, all right, I'm gonna be selfish too? You know, that oxygen that you breathe, that ground that you have everything sort of founded on, the food that you eat, I'm gonna be selfish too. You get no nutrients, you get no light, you get no oxygen. Good luck. No, of course. Well, I don't want to say of course, because I think if the earth had to, like it would. Like if we drive things to that point, then that's what they're gonna be. But it's out of consideration for others that we actually get where it is that we want. And I mean, it's the Empress, so you know, she's all the queens. I don't even think the Emperor is selfish. Okay, but final message from these cards, please. These cards, please. I'm gonna just keep going until something hits the table. Table ni hito shimasu. Community. Oops. Okay. Community, the Sun, and Magician in the Mirror came out. They didn't hit the table though. And since I said hit the table, they got to hit the table. Community, the Magician, and the Sun, I think that, again, it goes back to that Two of Pentacles energy, where we're actually manifesting, creating a balance with the global community in mind. And it's like keeping the global community in mind in a way that we're bringing awareness to what needs to be, for like what awareness needs to be brought to. It's not a dismissive way of like, oh, I'm manifesting world peace and I'm manifesting this for the collective. But when the collective shows you how they're hurting, you'll disregard everything. That's the back of the Queen of Swords. The front of the Queen of Swords listens. She's pre-justice energy. And even if there isn't anything that you can do, you can still listen. And as you are manifesting healing and things for yourself, at the very least, you can manifest some resolution or send some good energy that way, that problems would be resolved rather than just being silenced. Now the thinking man is there. I think, there we go. I think there will be some who are able to come up with something that is actionable in this time. I mean, there has to be somebody who actually does something, because that's how we get where we're going. But sometimes, especially if you hold a certain ideology or theology or philosophy around the concept of thought itself, giving awareness to something does more than continuing to ignore it. And then contract in the world is here. Honestly, it feels like the divine and the less than divine had an agreement on. It's like the contract in the world feels like we were sort of on a certain path, on one path or the other. Right? Like that golden timeline or that rusted timeline. And we were headed along that rusted path. And it seems like less than divine was so sure that we were going to go there that it came up with some sort of contract in some way to try to take even more. But what happened is the heart came back on, our eyes were opened, and not only are we actually seeing things now, but we're actually in the process of doing things to rectify what was broken. And so less than the divine energy is going to lose more than it thought it would have had to gain. It was greedy. It got too greedy. Too greedy for too long, and there were too many people left behind. And I think even the people, it's almost this energy of it doesn't matter what side you fall on. What matters more is your intention. Because I think there are legitimately some people who will do not great things from one perspective with a good intention in mind. I don't think it's always as nefarious as it could be. But they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, so. But it was a contract over the heart of humanity. And whether or not we would tend to complete mutual and utter destruction and annihilation. But somewhere along the way, things shifted on a more global scale, too. And so, like, that shift and that change is going to have to be honored. I don't know. Bottom of the deck is third chakra, Archangel Camuel. That's the solar plexus. That's a card of action. People no longer sort of sitting by and letting certain things slide or letting the world wax worse and worse. Coming into a space where we're deciding that we're going to do something different. And there's going to be action in multiple arenas. But in this card, there is a light in the solar plexus, in the heart, and at the crown. So it's all aligned. This is aligned action. This is that getting us back on track type of action. So that's what I got. What's this? Oh. Ah. Number 5. What's number 5? Attachment. And then Camuel is number 10. Well, he's number 37, which breaks down to a 10. And I guess it's like it's kind of sort of the space of a question. There's a man holding a heart. I like that energy. It's like, are we going to be more attached to our comfort or more attached to what is familiar than we will be to the fulfillment of everything that we want, to an actually better life? Or is it going to be just words? What they say, like, all bark, no bite. No traction, no action, no momentum. Spinning out. But that's what I got. I hope y'all get something out of this. If y'all watched it, I hope you get something out of it. I hope you're having a good whatever whenever you come across this. I hope you have a better one, whether you're having a good one or not. And I hope that you're acting in alignment to make that which you wish to experience your reality, because thoughts and words only do so much. Action is the fire that gets the balloon off of the ground. You can have a tank full or whatever full of fuel, but if you don't turn on the fire, you're not going to go anywhere. So with that, I'll catch y'all when I catch y'all. Bye. Have a good one. Solar fire.